worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. I'm Enfuego here for my namesake program, Enfuegotainment. That's right, you can just call me Fuego for short, and I am so stoked that you are here joining me for a new Fresca Fuego review, and one that has been, anxiously waiting in the wings for quite some time because this film has been delayed quite a bit, but finally, the last entry proper in the X-Men franchise. Yes, I know there is still the New Mutants, whether we'll see it in theaters or whatever, that still has yet to be determined, but as far as the Fox main mutant X-Men franchise goes, this is the Swan Song. This is none other than written, directed by Simon Kinberg, the guy responsible for the last time we saw the Dark Phoenix put on the screen with Funka Johnson in X-Men The Last Stand. Yes, this is none other than Dark Phoenix. And here on Enfuegotainment, I always do a little bit of bueno, malo, and feo, which is good, bad, and ugly in my silly Spanglish tropiness. And, I must say that I was not the biggest fan of Apocalypse, okay? And especially after the high that I was riding after Days of Future Past, and First Class was very, very solid as well. And I don't know. But then again, there was redemption with Logan, and Deadpool was fun and whatnot. But as far as the X-Men films proper go, this was also kind of a touchy subject because we had the departure of Bryan Singer amidst all of his personal problems and whatnot, and yet I wasn't as up in arms about that because of the fact that I was very much let down by Apocalypse after how much I loved Days of Future Past. And so I was like, okay, but Logan was a complete departure, and Deadpool is its own little pocket universe, so what are they going to do for retelling the Dark Phoenix story, okay? And, how can they put a different spin on it? What can they do in this regard? It can't be as bad as Brett Ratner, the Rush Hour director's film, right? And in my estimation, it's not. And so that's where, going into this film, there's a lot of people savaging this movie. There are critics and some fans saying that this is the worst X-Men movie of all time, even worse than X-Men Origins Wolverine. I don't know what Kool-Aid they're drinking, I don't know what crack pipes they're passing, but at least for me, and once again, as I always say, film is subjective, I actually like this movie. I didn't love it. It's not a great X-Men movie, Is it up there with X2, Days of Future Past, Logan? No, it's obviously not. But I think maybe just seeing the way people were brutalizing this movie, and I just went in hoping to enjoy myself, have a couple fanboy moments. I liked the cast quite a bit, even if Jennifer Lawrence checked the bug out like a long time ago, and everybody kind of knows a beat that's going to end up transpiring with her from the trailers. They hint at something, and they don't completely spell it out, but something that you may be able to predict. But as far as bueno goes, if I'm going to jump right into it, really, really like Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. I thought she and honestly, her and, Ty Sheridan, kid from Ready Player One, even if I didn't particularly like that movie or his performance that much, he's a solid young, Cyclops, Scott Summers and whatnot, and I really enjoy the kid who plays the new, younger version of Nightcrawler, Nightcrawler being my go-to in the original X-Men the arcade game, and he was always the guy that I picked. I loved his performance in X2, X United, and even though they didn't get as much screen time as I was hoping for, I really liked all the new kids that they brought in Apocalypse, even if I didn't like Apocalypse as a movie really very much at all. I think it's just barely above Last Stand, and I don't even know if I would say that I liked it better than Last Stand. It's got that terrific opening bit, when it's all the way back in ancient Egypt, with Apocalypse before, he gets sealed off and everything. But as a whole, Apocalypse was such a letdown for me. I think it's there like bottom of the barrel along with X Origins Wolverine and The Last Stand. But the best part of the most recent X proper, the last one to feature Bryan Singer, was the fact that we got Sophie Turner and Ty Sheridan, and I forget the actress playing Storm, and I forget the actor playing, Nightcrawler, but I thought all four of them were good, and they're all pretty decently served in this, but obviously this is a girl from Game of Thrones show, and, she is at the forefront, and she does a terrific job in this movie. Even if there is some scripting issues, I feel like she rises above some of the cheese dialogue and just gives a terrific dynamite performance throughout, and it just makes me sad that this is the swan song of this particular iteration of the X-Men as the property transfers from Fox over to the MCU and Marvel Disney, and the fact that we have no idea when we're going to start seeing mutants in the MCU, whether it's going to be at the end of Phase 4, sometime thereafter. You know, it's been hinted at, you know, that it's not going to come anytime soon, unfortunately. So, you know, that's something to mention in the not even the MALO, that's fair, and I'll get to that at the very end. But yeah, I thought Sophie Turner was great. I thought the kid played Nightcrawler was great, and you know, even though they don't get as much, I still think Nicholas Hoult, great as Beast. I still felt that you know, I just love all of these actors in these particular roles, even if they didn't have quite as much to chew on in this as I would have personally liked. You know, I love James McAvoy as this, like, now kind of, I mean, it's been like 20-something years since that late 60s First Class film. So, you know, you have to figure this is early 90s, you know, so it's probably 25 plus years. And he doesn't look as aged as he should. I mean, kind of, and I know some people are being critical of that. But, and I love Fassbender, even though he doesn't show up till halfway through the movie. I love him as, you know, as Magneto. God, he's so very good, and he's the perfect counterbalance in my estimation to, you know, what Sir Ian did. And so, I mean, yeah, I even like you know, Olivia Diabo, maybe that's her name. Anyway, she returns as Psylocke, and she's pretty good. I don't know, I enjoyed all the casting in this with the exception of Jessica Chastain. You know, she was playing the oh goodness, the Intergalactic, what the hell are they called? I'm having trouble remembering. Gosh, I want to say Dabari, maybe. I know that they're the ones who actually had, if I recall correctly, like stretching back to like the late 60s in the Marvel comics, you know, maybe a Captain America something. Anyway, it was their planet, and like their whole, like, you know, little system of planets and stuff that, you know, the Dabari were just ravaged by, you know, the Dark Phoenix entity, I guess, and I'm really stretching back to, you know, grasp on some of that knowledge and whatnot. And I don't really think, if I remember, that they factored that in, like, their race in particular as much into, like, the actual X-Men animated series that I loved so much when they tackled the Dark Phoenix saga. But yeah, so Jessica Chastain was really, and I'll get to that in the bad, she was really the only character that I just did not like so very much and didn't really care too much for her performance. But I thought everybody else, despite some of the scripting limitations, I thought were really good, except for Jennifer Lawrence, because she's just been going through the motions with this flippin' franchise for the longest damn time and just hasn't seemed like she cared since maybe First Class. But in any event, so yeah, I enjoyed all of the acting, and it was so fun to see all of these characters back in, but Sophie Turner really steals the show. And some people may say it's too CGI heavy, but when you have like what the Dark Phoenix is alone, there's no room for practical in that sort of thing. And I loved, you know, just some of the burn look and stuff as, you know, as she's being taken over. And I gotta say, and also just like the whole swirling, you know, like solar, whatever the hell they called it, you know, it's not solar flares, God, I can't remember. And you know, really the opening sequence with them, which a lot of people have talked about because it was screened at one of the festivals or conventions or something a number of months ago. It's where they're doing the initial rescue of the, you know, spaceship at the very beginning. You know, the president calls in the X-Men, and it's really dope to see everybody using their respective powers to great use, especially the teleportation from Nightcrawler, and then seeing, you know, how Storm assists, and seeing, even though it's really some of the only stuff we get from Evan Peters in the entire movie, he has like a cool little bit, nothing like in Days of Future Past, obviously, but still, it's like the teamwork aspect in that initial rescue sequence is very well put together and really cool. And honestly, I will say that in Apocalypse, there was not a single bit in that film where I had like a fanboy moment, where I was just like, ooh, that was pretty damn cool. And there was a couple moments of that in this film, especially in the third act, which we're all under the impression from what the rumors and, you know, press stuff that's been circulating, is that they reshot the entire third act because they were worried it was going to be too similar to another film. But then again, we end up with something on a train again, and they had train stuff in Days of Future Past, so I don't know. But the train stuff that they did with this fight with the Bari or whatever we called them, there's some cool stuff, man. I geeked out at some of the stuff that Magneto does in particular, and really, I mean, there's some violence, man. There's some decent violence, and there's really just some feel scenes with like Sophie Turner. She could do no wrong in this movie for me. I thought she was terrific, and I just she rivals Funke Johnson for just the whole tortured aspect of Jean and whatnot, and I love the flashbacks to her as a child and where, you know, Xavier is first taking her in, you know, after the accident in the vehicle with her family and whatnot, and the father is just like, I can't handle this girl, there's no hope for her, and just the positivity that Xavier brings. I don't know, I mean, I didn't hate this movie. I actually liked it a lot more than I was expecting to. So I'm just going to double down on that and say, what of it? I don't care. Detract me all you want. Naysayers. Naysay everything that I want to give at least a little bit of praise to. Everything I create. Well, no, all I'm doing is creating this video for y'all to watch and probably bitch at me in the comments about how much you hated it. But so bad. MALO. There's definitely MALO in this movie. First and foremost, a lot of these X films are well over 2 hours, like in the 2:20, 2.5 hour range. If you include the credits, this one's only about like 145, 150, something like that. So it is like delving more into the Last Stand runtime and stuff. And up until the third act, I actually felt like the movie was moving too fast. I definitely did. Like from where Jean first comes into contact in space after the rescue with this Phoenix entity and everything, it's just like, just the dominoes all falling so quickly for her becoming the Dark Phoenix, it happens too fast. And while you can still, you can vibe with it and you're okay with it, yeah, it just, I don't know, it's not given enough time to breathe and to gestate and just really not feel as forced and almost as if you're supposed to know. And then, you know, once again, I didn't like Chastain's performance in this. I didn't like the way they very just vaguely even explained her alien races, you know, just role in this. Very, very little, if any, backstory, and I don't know, I just thought that was very poorly handled and just breezed over, and that was just not properly explained. And I know people, you know, with an understanding of the comics, which mine is decent, but not super, super, super deep, like, you know, over on the horror show, like a Luis or a Cecil or anything like that. So, you know, the casual audience member is, especially if you've seen, you know, the previous, you know, Dark Phoenix story and X-Men Last Stand, you might be scratching your head just a little bit about some of the stuff that they do here. There is underutilization of a lot of characters. Once Magneto does finally come into play, I feel like he's used pretty well, but we don't see him until about halfway through the movie. Evan Peters has nothing to do in this movie, which is a real bummer because he brought such life and vibrance to Quicksilver. I mean, yeah, it's a bummer. It's such a bummer that, you know, some of these great characters turns that we got in some of the last few films were so underserved in this one, especially with this being the Swan Song and this really being the goodbye. And once again, yes, I know New Mutants is coming afterwards, but, you know, New Mutants is its own thing. We still have more Legion coming, you know, third season of that. I don't know, there's a third Deadpool movie presumably coming at some point, but that's the only property that I'm assuming is really going to retain its semblance of character, you know, going into, you know, the whole Disney Reich and everything that is the mouse running, you know, the mutants and everything. And so, yeah, so there is a decent amount of bad in this movie. It's not a great film, and we do see, I mean, there's a lot of rehash. That's something that it's very, very apparent and very just valid to criticize this movie about. The fact that, did we need another telling of the Dark Phoenix story? Did Simon Kinberg just have that much regret? Because he was like, the first X project that he worked on script-wise was The Last Stand with Brett Ratner, and that was very poorly received, you know, and he didn't work on Origins and he didn't work on First Class, but he did do a tremendous story, you know, or screenplay at least. He collaborated on the story with Matthew Vaughn and a few other people for Days of Future Past, and once again, didn't like Apocalypse, and, you know, this script has its fair share of problems. But yeah, did we really need a rehash? Did we really need another telling of this story? That's open for debate, but it's done in a much different fashion. And, you know, just to cycle back to Bueno, I actually did like the fact that while there is a lot of CG in, you know, the final confrontation, this movie as a whole felt much more grounded in my estimation than The Last Stand. The Last Stand had such a huge myriad of characters. This felt much more personal and just more condensed and smaller and emotional in comparison with The Last Stand and that particular iteration of the story. And I felt like it worked quite well, actually. You know, I liked how, especially after Apocalypse and Days of Future Past had these huge, super CGI battles and these like ginormous like locales and places and stuff. I actually felt like Dark Phoenix made a good move in just having this smaller battle on, like, I don't know, it was like a beat up construction site of sorts with just a few characters, and it didn't seem as green screeny as the end of Apocalypse did, or the end of Days of Future Past, as much as I love that movie. So, and my love for Days of Future Past, that's a good way to just segue into Feo. If I'm going to be frank and honest, you know, Logan is its own thing, totally pocket universe, you know, whatever sort of thing, you know, but this series probably should have ended with Days of Future Past. It was the perfect ending, and the fact that they made a couple other films that are debatably nowhere near as good as that, yeah, that's definitely an ugly thing. But the biggest ugly for me is the fact that I teared up at the end of this. There is an interaction between two characters, and I guess a very minor spoiler, it involves a game of chess, and that stretches all the way back to 2000 when the first X-Men movie came out. I've seen every X-Men and X-Men, you know, like spin-off movie in theaters, and it's ugly and sad in my estimation that this franchise now has to be under the Disney banner. I know a lot of people are just like, hallelujah, Kevin Feige's gonna do right by our mutants. It's all gonna be great, wonderful, fantastic, blah, blah, blah. But there are a shitload of other characters that need their due. And that is one of the biggest things that I have very mixed emotion and opinion about with regards to. And there's some people who want everything, even the Sony Marvel properties like Spider-Man and Venom and all of them, they want everything under the Marvel umbrella. But are you going to get 6 Marvel films a year? Probably not. I mean, they do like 2 to 3 like at this point in time, you know, and are they really going to go that many? I don't personally think so. That's definitely overstuffing the turkey. And so that is something ugly that makes me sad, is that one of the first, you know, I mean, the first 2, like, Marvel, you know, before even the MCU and, you know, Disney and all this stuff came into play, I remember Blade in theaters in 98, and then I remember X-Men in theaters in 2000, and X-Men specifically being the Fox Marvel property, and I got really sad because, you know, everybody was like, oh, you know, Endgame, it was a 10-year journey, and it was all of these different things, and I got all the feels, you know, with that, and I sure as hell did too. I really did, and Endgame is 100%, you know, the moon over a better film in every possible capacity than Dark Phoenix. And, you know, this series deserved a better swan song, damn it, and that swan song was Days of Future Past. But if I'm just going to be more general about it, I got some of those same just sad, bittersweet feels just thinking, okay, we had just got done with this 10-year journey with Marvel, but this is the end of a 20-year journey for me with the Fox mutant characters. And I'm sad about that. I genuinely am. So, I'm going to end it on that somber note, everybody, okay? I'm Jaime En Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, right here, which is where you are, on Enfuegotainment. So if you think I'm full of the craptasticness, please let me know in the comments below that I'm super wrong about actually enjoying this movie. Once again, I didn't love it. I'm not over the moon for it, but I had fun with it, and that's really all that I can ask for, because at the end of the day, I feel like there's more mediocre to not so good X-Men movies than there are really damn good X-Men movies. I mean, for my money, there's only 3 damn good X-Men movies, and I don't count Deadpool. I don't. As much as I love the first Deadpool movie, don't care as much for the second one. You know, there's X2, there's Days of Future Past, and then Logan, but once again, even Logan is a spin-off side kind of thing, just like Deadpool. So I don't know, but if you think I'm totally wrong, let me know in the comments below. But please, like the video, share, subscribe if you haven't. I'm trying to get to a GZ on my subscribers so that I actually have access to so much more that YouTube has to offer me as a creative. I can't spend all my time with like our 27,000 subscribers on the horror show. I need this separate outlet for myself and everything else that I enjoy that isn't of the spooktacular variety, and I really, really greatly appreciate, you know, gracias, danke, arigato, obrigado, merci beaucoup, I mean, danke, everything, you know, that all the different people from all kinds of different areas of the world who have checked out some of these videos, I appreciate it oh so very much. But yes, obviously, almost 27 strong, man. The horror show for scarific variety of all different sorts. Yes, trailer reactions, film reviews, convention coverage. We are going to be at Mad Monster Phoenix as their official press at the end of June. So if you are anywhere in the deadly desert, please come and check out the horror show. We are going to be having a booth. We are going to be doing press, helping out with AV. You'll see yours truly cosplayed as something crazy, I would imagine. But yes, make sure to jump over there, just like you see it below, youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. But that's going to be a wrap for all things spooktacular today. And yes, there's going to be more Star Wars complete canon coverage coming very soon. I've got the Padme novel almost all finished up, and then also Age of Republic, Heroes and Villains. That comic review is coming in just a couple of days. So I guess I'm going to leave it at that, everybody, and say until the real of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, Cinemigos. But I am hopeful that we get to do that reconnection thing sooner rather than later. Peace.